Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Needs Some Introduction. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the second episode of Mobland, an episode called, I just looked it up. Oh,
Jigsaw puzzle, something like that.
I believe you are correct. Jigsaw puzzle. Yes. Oh, man, I just realized. I was about to say, I don't know what this means. I just realized
Uh,
what it meant. And Jigsaw puzzle, this episode, also directed by Guy Ritchie, by the way.
Mhm.
And I believe this is the last episode he directs. He may direct towards the end of the season, but the next few episodes will definitely not be directed by Guy Ritchie. Before, or I should say, we'll kick off the episode with that. We'll have a little bit of show news before then. And very importantly, Darren has been wanting to talk about the White Lotus all season long. Of course, that season just wrapped up. And that's part of the show news that we have a video episode that Son and I recorded. So do check that out. It's on YouTube. Check the show notes for the YouTube link if you haven't subscribed to us there yet. So there'll be a long conversation where we get into all those details of things, discussing that finale and just Darren's thoughts on the season in general. So do check the show notes. If you're only here for the White Lotus conversation, do check the show notes there for the timestamps. I always include those timestamps in there, but I think especially apropos for this particular conversation. And we also have the usual roundup of things we've been watching, which will be at the very end of the episode. So do check the show notes once again if you want to hop around to any one particular topics.
Finally, I get the chance to talk about White Lotus.
finally been reining you in, and now you finally get to talk about it. A little bit of show news. One is that Your Friends and Neighbors is beginning this week. That's going to be our next week-to-week watch starting this Friday. And I wanted to announce, I just saw this in the headlines today. Apple TV has a promo doing a big push trying to get this John Hamm show to be a hit. The studio is doing very well for them as well. So they're coming off of this huge hit of Severance, at one point the biggest show in the world, ratings wise, for a week or two there before the White Lotus really caught fire. Now the studio is doing very well for them, and they're trying to keep this hit streak running for now. And they're cutting their monthly service, their cost, to $2.99 a month for 3 months. And I'll put the link to that coupon in the show notes. I don't know if you can take advantage of that, Darren. If you're currently a subscriber, I try to take advantage of it. I can't because I'm currently paying. I guess if I cancel my subscription and then try to reactivate, it could probably work. But anyway, an option.
Yeah, I got a free couple of months from somewhere, so I think that's just run out now. So I am actually giving them.
Oh, do you have a perfect opportunity to take advantage of this coupon then? And I want to mention this to everybody. The most recent time I had Apple TV free for 6 months. I had no idea about this. I never use my smart TV to stream my Apple. I stream it directly from my phone to the device, just mirror it to the screen normally. But I decided to install the Apple TV on my smart TV just so, I could navigate the menu if I want to. And because it came up as a new device, I got a free 6 months of Apple TV as soon as I activated that. So if you've never installed the Apple TV app, you don't need the device anymore, by the way, just the app on your smart TV. I got 6 free months. So I'm like, hey, take advantage of that. If you haven't done it before, you may very well be sitting on 6 free months of Apple TV. So that's another opportunity for you to check that out. So, of course, if you've been watching Severance and you want to keep watching Apple TV content, speaking of Guy Ritchie, I don't know if you saw the trailer for this, but his new movie's premiering in May on Apple TV. It is The Fountain of Youth. Have you seen this?
Oh, I didn't realize that was his. I've seen a
Yeah.
couple of posters around, and that's an Apple TV thing.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money on this, and I don't think it looks that good, to be honest. But I have Apple TV. I'll definitely be watching.
Who's in it?
John Krasinski,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an all-star cast here.
Mm.
I'm pulling it up. Elsa Gonzalez from
yeah.
Baby Driver, Natalie Portman, Stanley Tucci, John Krasinski, Domhnall Gleeson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Carmen Ejogo. A lot of recognizable people here. And some of them from other Guy Ritchie projects.
Well, look, his stuff is always interesting to look at, even if it's just the first 15, 20 minutes to see what kind of style he's going for.
Exactly. I got to say, I mean, the King Arthur movie, terrible. But the I want to see the movie that they fast forwarded through in the first 8 minutes of that film. That's the movie I wanted to see.
I don't think I caught that.
Just watch the first 10, 15 minutes. They basically yada yada up to the present day, past the original mythology of Arthur. And they must have spent $100 million on the special effects for that opening sequence. I'm like, I want to see that movie. Can I see that one? No, no, unfortunately not.
He's so interesting anyway, even if it's
Yeah,
something that you just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, he's done a Disney movie, he's done all these crime
yeah,
thrillers, and yeah, it's just and the style that he has for Mobland is very straight.
yes,
So perhaps that's a reason why there's different directors throughout the rest of the series because he wanted something that is easily replicable rather than doing his
yes,
hyperkinetic stuff.
right.
Yeah, maybe.
I have to say, I am looking forward to seeing the show once he is no longer directing it.
Hmm.
As a fan of his, but it doesn't give me the energy I want from his type of thing. And I think if it becomes more procedural, it may work better for this material. Maybe that's my opinion, but we'll see. I guess it remains to be seen. And I think that was all the news I had. So this episode, as I mentioned, Jigsaw puzzle. First of all, a question for you, Darren.
Hmm.
I was trying to remember where have I seen this Eddie character, this actor, this supremely punchable face this guy has. I'm like, I know that face. I've seen it. He played Johnny Rotten in Pistol, the Danny Boyle miniseries about the Sex Pistols. Did you watch that last year?
I didn't watch that, but he looks exactly
Mm,
like him.
exactly. Wait, you should see him in the show. He looks exactly like him. He's got the spiked orange hair, and of course, dead ringer for him there. I recommend
Yeah,
that, by
just
the way.
that gaunt look, just the
Yeah,
bony face. Yeah.
yeah. So
I
that.
love Danny Boyle doing anything,
Hmm,
everything.
yeah.
So yeah, I haven't actually heard of that. So I might have to seek that out.
Really? Oh yeah, check it out. It's available on Hulu if you have Hulu, and through Disney as well. It was an FX production, so definitely available on Hulu, and it's called Pistol. And yeah, it's based on the biography of the guitarist. So it's all
Mm,
factual. It's the Danny Boyle style. He goes very stylish, which I liked.
mm.
He's kind of shied away from his style recently. He went right into the very Danny Boyle type feeling. A lot of fun to watch. And as a fan of music in general and music history specifically, I always enjoy seeing these bios. I love the energy of the punk movement at that time. It feels a little artificial, but they all do. but it worked for me. I recommend it.
And such an iconic band, an iconic moment
Yeah.
in time. Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I love to see like him. You'll get into it there, but like just the whole idea that they're transcribing reggae badly to their guitars, and that's what basically creates this genre of music. It's pretty incredible because they can't play, and they're trying to play reggae music, but it doesn't sound like reggae, and they create punk rock basically,
Epic.
or the popular version. Punk is a lot of things, but when you think punk rock, that is the sound you imagine.
Mm.
So, what did you think about this episode overall compared to episode one? Did you have general feelings before we start breaking it down?
Okay, yeah, general feelings. I liked it a lot better. What one of my gripes about the first episode was it wasn't enough about Harry, wasn't enough
Yeah.
about Tom Hardy, and
Mhm.
this one is a bit like you said, the word procedural. It's a bit more of Tom Hardy doing his thing,
Yeah.
and he's got these two offsiders, these couple of henchmen, henchwoman and a henchman, who are
Yeah.
fantastic. They say all that is needed to be said, and they do their jobs really well. They can drive a car, they can shoot, and I enjoyed seeing that kind of stuff. And then it ends on a pretty interesting cliffhanger as well. So yeah, it made me want to watch Mobland more, which is exactly what you want from a second episode.
I think originally they had stated this was going to be a 2 episode premiere, and they were probably smart to drag it out an extra week because the ratings for this show were fantastic last week. The audience reactions kind of mixed, but the numbers were fantastic for Paramount. I think it's their biggest premiere ever. And Paramount, of course, has all of those Yellowstone spin-off shows on there, which have been
Mm.
very popular. So that this has exceeded that says a lot, basically. So that it was impressive turnout for that. So they were probably smart to spread it out, but it really feels like I agree that like the clock is ticking now at the end of this episode, and it felt like I would have been way more enthusiastic of giving it a go forward last week if I had seen this as the final moment of the the full preview.
Yeah, I agree. And we had our fill of Pierce Brosnan in the last episode, and
Yes.
he's hardly in this one.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of scenes,
Which is a
which
plus.
is enough, and it kind of
Yes.
works when
Right.
he's over the top and he's a bit cartoonish. But if
Right.
less is more with that type of performance, and I think it works in this one.
And maybe it's kind of what I was saying, although we definitely now have introduced, and we'll get into it, some new wrinkles in the plot, possibly in some characters. So we need to be outside of Harry's POV. It really feels like the more the show is close to Harry's POV and his experience and his interactions with everybody, and to that point, he can interact with these over the top, the Maeve character, the Conrad character, but they're just a little bit of seasoning, and they can be these ridiculous characters because they are these old world gangsters that have maybe some kind of opinion of their own position in this whole world. Like they might be headed for a downfall. There could be fun, even as over the top as they are. Like you said, if it's the side dish, not the main dish, right? So, and hopefully they keep it that balance correct. I gotta say, the way this episode began, I was a little worried. The whole fact that we have Kevin walking Harry through the previous events, and they were actually seeing flashbacks as he's describing it. I'm like, does the audience, I mean, not Harry needs to, but do we as the audience members need this refresher on what happened at the end of last week's episode? Like,
It was a
theoretically,
bit odd. Yeah, it was. And I thought they could have played with that a little bit because it's
sure.
someone else's point of view rather than the exact same scenes that we just saw. Yeah, I thought that was strange. But I did like Harry saying, we need to change these curtains, we need to repaint, we need to
Yeah.
redo the floor, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what's funny about it is that if they had replayed it and it was new footage, like Harry
Mm.
is doing like Poker Face or Columbo or something, like in his head, thinking of all the things that need to get fixed as he's hearing the details, because he's only thinking about like where would the bullet end up? Where would this happen? Like if we saw that, but we don't see that. We see the exact same footage as last week, and Harry wasn't there. So I'm like, what? Why are we replaying last week's episode? It was really, really strange. But I agree that I loved seeing him just totally matter of factly being like, here's where he's got the infrared light. He's like, here's where the blood spatter is. We need to strip the paint off of here and repaint. We need to replace this floorboard because there's a bullet hole in it. So I liked all that side of it for sure. He's a fixer. That's what he does. Oh, and of course, in this early flashback, by the way, we also see, interestingly, how Harry and Kevin met each other. Little flashback or little shades of a dope thief here. But
Mm.
what'd you think about that? That they met at the juvenile detention center.
Yeah, I think it is really interesting, and I think there's scope to go into that a bit further. I'm just a little bit worried for the young actor who has to play a young Tom Hardy. Very difficult, I think.
Doesn't really look like Tom Hardy. I mean, we know what Tom Hardy looked like when he was younger. So he was, he's been making movies for a while. He was in that Star Trek movie when he was in early 20s. Doesn't really look like him. He doesn't have the full. I mean, back then he didn't have the full potato head, the handsome potato head that you described last week. But
It took me a beat. It took me a beat to actually realize that
that's who he's supposed to be.
That was him. Yeah,
yes,
which it shouldn't be that difficult.
Agreed.
Mm.
Yeah, I had the same experience where I'm like, who is this? And then I understood what they were trying to do. So in the plot, Richie ambushes Kevin after this meeting earlier in the episode and basically says that he needs to present his son, find him, and show him to him within the hour. Gives him 1 hour. So another ticking clock here in the particular episode. And they start to, Kevin and his wife start to pressure Eddie, but really barely. Like, what do you think about what is going on here? How they treat this guy with kid gloves, even in this circumstance? Like, what is going on with their relationship with their son?
Yeah, and we learn a bit more about the wife and mother of Eddie in this episode too. So there's something going on. There's very disparate threads in this family, and they really just let him do almost whatever he wants to do. And we see later with his grandma.
Yeah, it's crazy. That relationship is nuts.
Very interesting that he still likes to cuddle with his grandma and to share drugs with her as well.
Yeah, that bosom is good for multiple things apparently.
So I'm not quite sure about the father and the mother dynamic and the it's there's definitely scope to go into that a bit further. And the mum is also having an affair, or
Yeah.
that's kind of
Well,
hinted at
yeah.
with our mate Harry too. So yeah, it's interesting. I like seeing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I like we'll get to her in a little bit later on because I think that's a very interesting wrinkle here, and takes the story potentially teases a different direction the show could possibly go in. But I just found this was really weird because we saw last week where it's like, don't bother him too much. He has been accused of stabbing somebody, and he won't even give them details on like what occurred the night before. And then again, it's like I still can't get him to tell me anything. I'm like, that kid needs to get smacked around. At least Harry at one point is like, I'm only going to ask you this one time. And the next time I talk to you, I'm going to smack you around. So at least Harry puts his foot down, but these parents are just, they're no wonder this kid's such a mess.
Yeah, and it's good that we get the scene between Harry and Eddie, and just to see what could happen there. But yeah, he's sheltered, isn't he? He's in the car. He's in a room.
Yep.
He's
Yep.
not. I'm waiting to see what happens when he gets off the leash again.
Yeah. Well, he's going to stab somebody else probably. Harry gets picked up by the cops here. I find it very funny. I noticed it right away that I'm like, Harry's like in a full, like luxurious pajama here when he gets at the bed, and I'm
Mhm.
literally thinking in my head, going like, maybe I need to dress for sleep because I just wear like boxers and like the rattiest shirt I have, the most comfortable shirt I have. So I'm like, this guy's in a full outfit, but good thing he did because the cops come
Mm.
busting in. He has to walk outside in his very luxurious pajamas.
Well, if you're in a situation where the cops could
Can
possibly
show up.
bust in, Victor,
I
then yeah, I think you need to upgrade your bedtime wardrobe.
I actually thought the same thing. I'm like, he probably maybe has to always be prepared, that he has to be dressed for outdoors at all times. Go to sleep in a jacket.
And it was funny that it seemed like it was not the first time. And
Exactly. Yeah.
everyone knows the drill. Even the daughter knows the drill, and she's got a mouth on her.
Yeah. They're just like, she needs to take her tests tomorrow. That's their biggest part concern there at that moment. But interesting when he gets questioned, he gets questioned by this cop who tells him that the Harrigan Express is running out of steam, that they know about Archie, or if they don't know about, they know something happened to Archie. I don't know if they know he's dead yet,
Yeah.
but they definitely start asking questions. Where is he? He hasn't been seen. So all of this is very intriguing. And how do you think they might know about Archie? There's a few theories here in this very episode, but
Well, I think the most obvious one is what they came up with, and that he's an informant with the
right.
police, and with this police kind of boss that is being introduced. Although he's not as charismatic as
Yeah.
I would have liked him
Yeah.
to be. We think that he's going to have more of a role in this series to try to bring down these guys.
That's what's always good in crime shows for me, where you're rooting for both sides at the same time.
Mm.
Like so. But you need the antagonist or protagonist, depending on which direction you consider it, to be like of equal footing. So maybe the part will develop, maybe the role will develop. So we'll see. Harry's home life is bad. He ends up missing that couples therapy appointment that he
Mm.
promised last week. He promised he would be there, and of course he missed it. But don't make promises when these type of stakes are on the line. Of course, he got arrested in front of his daughter. That's not winning him points either. And of course, by the very end of the episode, his wife has told him that she's contacted a lawyer, so she's starting to proceed with a possible divorce. But Harry's been really busy. He's got the cleanup of Archie's body. He's been brought in by the cops, of course. He's coordinating Zosha, this driver, and the other bodyguard, getting Eddie out to the grandparents' house. What did you think of this driving sequence, by the way, where they try to lose them and they're driving through the countryside? By the way,
Very cool.
these car chases or these shootouts at these country estates is very Guy Ritchie as well.
Mm. Yeah, very cinematic. Yeah, I loved it, and I loved the way that she reversed up, and then she would reverse out of the situation. I like the fact that you know how armed everybody is,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
you know the stakes, and the fact that Eddie's pretty cool in the back of the car. He's not too fussed, even though people are shooting around him and at him. Yeah, very cool scene, very Guy Ritchie. I enjoyed it a lot.
Do you think he's just a little clueless though? Because I mean, I don't know if he's like been tested under fire, or if it's just like he's a bit of a numbskull here when it comes to the amount of danger he's actually in.
It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder. I mean, he comes across as very cool, and
Yeah.
very like this has happened before. But maybe it's funnier if he is just a bit clueless.
I just feel like he's so coddled in so many ways that I don't think he's had to deal with any kind of tough stuff. And he probably just, is just going to go and cry to his granny in the end anyway.
It's yeah. I mean, we've only seen him out and about once where he stabbed the guy, so it's it's very. I don't know how a person like this interacts with the world. He dresses like a old school gangster with the shoes and the fur around his jacket.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in his own little world.
He's been watching too many Guy Ritchie movies.
He really has.
Conrad meets with Henry, like you mentioned, at the grounds after this whole thing happens. He also starts talking to him about Archie. That's their primary conversation, actually, surprisingly, even given everything else that's going on. And he tells him, well, maybe he was not working with the other gangs. Maybe he was potentially an informant for the police. And Conrad doesn't even believe this. He's saying, well, a man will betray you for money. That's fair play. But that he was a grass. What is that? Is that a snake in the grass? I'm thinking maybe. I don't. I think he just made up all these terms. I've never heard that before in my life, so maybe it's a British term. I'm not sure. Have you heard that?
Yeah, no, yeah, I have heard it. Yep,
Oh,
yep.
okay, okay. That for me, not familiar with that term. So, is it snake in the grass? Is that where that comes from?
Not quite sure. Maybe it's rhyming slang or something. I don't know.
They don't quite believe it either. Honestly, I don't quite believe it either. Archie seemed really shocked by what happened last week. I think that it's an obvious theory, right? I think that's one way where the cops believe it. I mean, not the cops believe it. Maybe the cops want them to believe that that's the case. They obviously know something went on, but they even make a point of it here. If they had actual surveillance of some kind or they were watching, then they already know they disposed of a body, so would be arrested at this point for murder.
Mm.
So they know something's up. So I am curious to see how this plays out. I think that there's maybe these are the beginning of a bigger plot going on here.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're right. It does seem a bit too easy. I do like that Harry's got the access to the funeral home to dispose of
Yes,
any bodies or clothes or anything that's
anything he needs to
incriminating.
dispose of, exactly.
Very easy.
Go with the green option. A new interest, and maybe this is potentially where the leak is coming from. So this is the interesting subplot. I thought Bella, which is Kevin's wife, Eddie's mom, she apparently comes from aristocratic family. Her father is very alienated from her. He seems to be a politician of some kind, and probably because she's married to the mob, he doesn't has some distance from them, which makes sense if that's his career and his reputation. But then she has some shady meeting with this shady French dude. You mentioned that she also flirts with uh, Harry at one point too. So they seem to have had some kind of relationship in the past, or at least a very heavy flirtation, like something nearly happened multiple times. So she uses this as some kind of power over him. And then, but this French guy in this hotel meeting, he offers something vague to her, and she says she doesn't care about the money. She's interested in a different kind of currency. Do you have any idea what this might be teasing out?
Yeah, so the French person, he's a conduit to some Arabs, is that what they said?
I think so.
So maybe she's trying to get a piece of this drug action for herself or to introduce a new gang. I mean, we just lost a couple of gangs at the start of the pilot, so maybe there's a new foreign gang that wants to infiltrate London.
And this is actually an open question because Kevin might be not on the up and up here either and playing dumb to some of the things he's seeing. It's all too early to tell, but I read this as this is all happening behind Kevin's back. Is that how you read it also?
Yes, I do. Yep.
So she's got some other agenda, which I'm very curious about. And I don't think it's just to protect Eddie. She seems to be, when she's talking about how he's still not getting out of bed, whatever, I think she seems to be playing those scenes like that is legitimately her reaction. But she does have some other agenda here, of course. That I
And
actually,
she seems to be on her own as well.
yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah.
I felt that she might be potentially a leak as well, that she might be leaking some of this information of what happened the night before, for example, in ways that don't directly implicate her or cause too much commotion in the short term as part of this angle she's trying to work. But I'm sure that they're just planting seeds here. Obviously, putting this scene so early in the season it's not supposed to be some kind of twist. I assume we'll discover what her plot is over time.
Well, that's interesting because if she is leaking something, then the fixer is going to have to deal with her. And if her
Right.
and Tom Hardy have a bit of history, a bit of flirtation, then that might be a bit difficult for him to deal with her.
But he also doesn't seem to trust her that much. But I mean, obviously, if he's attracted and had this relationship with her in the past, this is something that could be a sticking point for them for sure.
Hmm.
Okay, so then Harry is off to meet with the Stevensons, trying to iron things out. He goes to their pub again. This time, they just say, "No, Harry, time's up." And worse than that, he threatens Harry's daughter. He's got these photos of her, and overtly says that we are going to kill her, and then we are going to descend like locusts on the Cotswold house, which is where Eddie's staying with his grandparents. There's an interesting scene here. Good job by Hardy here, where Harry loses his focus for a moment and he's just like, "Oh, I was just thinking about how this is like how badly this is all going to play out." But you know that he's just presumably like fantasizing about murdering every single person in that room. But of course, he doesn't lash out. That's not the type of person he is. He says, "I'll find Tommy." And they say, "Well, you have to present him to me by tonight." And of course, given the fact that this is a trade, Tommy for his daughter, this is very problematic considering what we find out about Tommy by the end of this episode. So that clock is ticking.
I just love the characterization of the rival boss. He's just playing his role just to this delicious extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not overdoing it. He's just disgustingly just the way that you want this guy to be. Horrible, threatening his daughter like that, just disgusting. But that's what happens in this world.
And his son's been murdered. So,
Potentially, well, he doesn't know that,
right.
but
Doesn't know
yeah,
yet. Right.
yeah, that's right.
Well, that's basically what he says to him as well, where he's like, that's pretty messed up that you tried to kill Eddie. And he's like, "My son's still missing, buddy." You're kind of burying the lead there. And then, of course, we have that great scene back at Cotswold where Maeve is defending Eddie to Conrad, telling him, "You don't know what he is. What is he, a psychopath?" That's what I kind of see there. I'm not sure she's appealed to them. But more interesting in that interaction, she puts down Conrad, says, "You were just stealing cars when I met you. I made all of you." She might be overstating things, but I guess she's the one who's been always pushing the family to be more and more, and seems to be orchestrating this whole situation so that maybe to keep the ascent of the family going rather than letting them get too comfortable in just being incredibly powerful people. I'm not sure what her agenda is yet.
It looks like she's nurturing this kind of violent masculinity that she wants
Right.
to succeed, and I'm not sure if her son, which is Eddie's dad, is that correct? Whether he's living up to it. We don't really know enough there, but she identifies Eddie as the next true leader that's gonna put a cat amongst the pigeons in all this. Which I don't know. I don't know. We don't know enough about these characters just
Yeah.
yet. She's chewing the scenery a little bit. Again, sorry to say. So is Conrad. And just the both of them. I'm not on board with them yet. I'm not quite sure where they're taking it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they're going to be a bigger and bigger part of the show. We'll talk about scenes for next week, but they seem to be very big presence in the next season, in the next episode.
Mm.
Maybe the plot drivers there. I like what you said about the point that she might think Kevin is not holding up, this version of leadership that she's expecting. I'd like to see Kevin and her one on one, and
Mm.
maybe we'll see that and get a little more insight into this character. Right now, I think it's a little bit stereotypical, a little Lady Macbeth type thing
Mm.
going on here. I'm hoping that they've, improve these. I mean, Conrad's an issue for me too. These whole generation of actors in the show are definitely the weak points for me, just like you've said. We do have that interesting scene, though, the little Oedipal scene there where we have her cradling Eddie to her bosom and pulling cocaine out of there, too. "Oh, did you run out of cocaine? Here's some more." Interestingly, she says to him, and I guess this is one of the remaining mysteries, "What did it feel like to stab him?" She says, "him." And he says, "It felt great." But that's still an open question as to whether she's talking about him stabbing this random guy or whether he really is the person who killed Tommy. How did you read that?
I didn't actually pick that up. I thought it referred just to the guy in the nightclub.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like this stabbing was a bit of a coming out party for him in her
Right.
eyes, that she can see that he's capable of this violence. That's what she wants in a future leader of this family. I think it's a bit obvious that he killed Tommy. I don't think he
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he did the butchering, of course, as we saw towards the
No.
end. But yeah, he might have just stabbed him, and then there's a cover up now at this point. And Maeve is part of this because Maeve sees that that is who he is, and that's what she likes.
That's
And
what she
more
likes. That's what she's
stabbing.
into. Equals more cocaine.
That's right. Less real estate purchases, more stabbing, please. So, I mean, it seems pretty clear that she's the instigator of this war, and she probably dispatched Archie as part of this as well, because he would
Yeah.
be common sense. And then, of course, she's creating this war and putting Eddie in the crosshairs potentially. This is maybe all orchestrated by her, possibly, as a way to kick off this war. I guess that's a type of personality that can never be happy, even when they have all that more than they could possibly have achieved. Another mystery I have here is Harry goes and talks to Tommy's friends and somehow figures out that Tommy never left the club. So he goes back to that club. And I had asked you last week, what would you play after Firestarter? The answer to the question is you play more Prodigy.
You were correct. Great. Always more Prodigy. Why not?
If we go back to this club and they're playing like Full Throttle or Smack My Bitch Up or something, I'm like, they really only play like all their Spotify streams come from this one club.
Well, I see they're touring again. So Keith died a couple of years ago, and I think they've got someone else to replace him, and they're touring, so we can see more Prodigy again.
I was literally looking at because of this episode, I was looking at their Spotify page and they have a new single out. So there you
Wow.
go. I guess they're touring behind it.
I've seen them once at a festival, and yeah, they're pretty epic.
Yeah, I believe it. That's a lot of energy. A lot of energy.
In the breakdown of one of their tracks, they got everybody in the main stage of a festival to crouch down, and then when the track exploded, everyone jumped up, and it was a pretty
great.
Cool moment.
That's pretty great. And yeah, it's perfect. Whether you are there to dance in this edgy club or to partake in the S&M, I guess perfect soundtrack music for either thing. What else could fit the bill?
I did like Harry interacting with the guys, Tommy's mates. Their mates are pretty straight.
Yeah,
they're not in the scene. And I did like how he bought him a coffee or something, or bought him something.
Cheesecake. He told him some cheesecake.
Whatever it was, and they were very forthcoming. They knew the guy was serious, and they were like, "We'll give you whatever information you need. It's going to be the truth." And he's like, "Yeah, no worries. Buy yourself a cheesecake."
I like how he described it to him too. He goes like, the shorter guy with the nice cheekbones and those beautiful blue eyes. I'm like, I think he's got a crush on him. I don't know what's going on. But then, of course, he beats those beautiful blue eyes in, and the guy finally tells him that no, he's still there. Let me show you. And a grisly button on this episode, he shows him all the pieces that are left of Tommy in this trunk. He's like, how long did it take you to do this? He goes, 3 hours. My dad's a butcher.
Damn.
And we found out that Tommy also apparently has a lot of junk, and it's in the trunk.
Very Guy Ritchie.
R.I.P. to Tommy Gunn. He died so young. He barely got to use it. But this was a grisly sequence here, but at the end here.
Super grisly. Now, there was a scene in the first episode where Tommy was outside after the stabbing with Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a bit of a conversation, and I'm not sure if we saw them part ways. I can't remember. So
they head off together.
Has happened.
Yeah, I rewatched
they head off together.
Yes, exactly. I rewatched that at the end of the episode, actually, right afterwards. I rewound to it because felt like it couldn't. It's like it just felt too obvious to me that Eddie had actually killed him. And you see them that he meets up with him. He seems like really happy to see him. And I'm like, are they friends? And they're just not allowed to be friends in public. But then their conversation seems to be like they really don't know each other very well. And he's like, come with me. And he kind of puts his arm around them and they walk around the outside of the club. Presumably, this is when he dies. So, I mean, if Eddie didn't kill him, Eddie knows what happened to him. He's just not saying anything.
Okay, so that's the big mystery, and that's the missing half an hour before Tommy goes back to the club, or parts of him go back to the club.
That's right. Most of his parts, anyway. Oh, another random scene I forgot to mention, but just to bring it up because it's pretty funny. There's this brother that I honestly thought we weren't even going to see again. Like he was just randomly extra family members last week, but apparently we see him immediately. He's kind of the Fredo Corleone here of the idiotic younger brother, apparently. And he's got some new deal and he's trying to get his sister on board with it, his half sister, and blows it. First of all, she makes it clear that this guy's a moron and screws up everything he touches. And the best thing he could do is just take the money and go on vacation for a long period of time and don't talk to dad. Don't piss him off. And of course, the second mistake he makes is tell her that she's quite fit, which he thought was first annoying that there was a quite qualifier, and second of all that he shouldn't be calling her fit at all, considering their siblings. Shades of White Lotus, I guess, there too. But I guess
both good points.
Yes, exactly. But there's definitely going to be more intrigue here with the family members.
Yeah, not enough. I feel like we should have met them in the first episode. Maybe we did. I completely
we only meet them. Yeah, we only meet them when they're all. They basically he shoots the Archie in front of them. That's it. That's all that happened.
Shades of Succession.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, which they could lean into a bit because that's all very familiar to people, and it's always interesting. The Fredo, like I described him as Fredo. He's not right. Not quite.
He definitely, yeah. You could just tell right away. This guy's just got a new plan every week, and everybody's just like, okay. And we'll talk about it later.
And this female character, she seems cool. Like, so she seems like she's got her head screwed on correctly, and she can be ruthless if she needs to be. So yeah, more of her, please.
And of course, you can tell that her arrival bothers some of the people there because she obviously is coming from an illegitimate relationship, I would assume.
Oh yeah, okay. So where's her?
Her mom, right? So they have.
How does she? Yeah, that's right. How does she fit in? That'll be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll know more, sure. All right, next week's episode, Plan B. Here's scenes for next week. If you didn't watch them, you can skip ahead. But what do we see here? Richie is coming for all of them. He gets a call. This is Harry receiving the call that Richie's coming for all of them. Kevin is pistol whipping his son, saying, "Congratulations, you just started a war. More pistol whipping of this moron, please. Thank you." The bar owner Butcher is beat up really badly. I think he might have a missing eye, actually, as how beat up as he is. He has told them something, and Harry puts a gun to his head with his colleagues around him and says, "Tell them what you told me." So there's some other shoe to drop about the happenings of that night. I assume that it's not Eddie, and this might diffuse the war. I think that's might be what happened. But of course, the plan B here in the title is that Conrad and Maeve are sitting in a sauna together, and Conrad says that the quickest way to resolve this is to kill all the Stevensons and their entire inner circle, to which Maeve says, "Make us a hit list." And that's next week. So a lot of action next week, by the way, based on that preview.
I always make a point never to watch these coming
I just ruined it. I just ruined it for you.
It's always very interesting when you say these things. Any behind the scenes or flash forwards, I'm not interested. I just want to watch it when it's out.
I'll avoid that next time then.
No, that's fine. That's
keep you unspoiled. Yeah, overall, I like this, and more that I liked this. I don't know if I liked it significantly better or thought it was quality-wise significantly better than episode 1. I do like what it sets up for the season more than what I saw in season 1, which felt episode 1, I should say, which felt pretty generic as far as plot-wise. There's some intriguing things happening here by the end of just episode 2 here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in. Still, not tentatively. I'm in. Let's see what happens.
All right. So Darren mentioned to me last week that he really wanted to talk about White Lotus, and what better time to talk about the White Lotus since it just wrapped up this week. And we had a video episode, by the way, if anyone hasn't caught up on that. We got a lot of feedback already on YouTube. People were excited to see us put that episode up. I'm so happy to hear it from everybody. So thank you for the really positive response. Sona was surprised at how polite everybody was because we do get some negative feedback mixed in there. Usually, we got some very positive feedback and really appreciated it. That was a 2 hour conversation, Darren. 2 hour conversation, the longest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Oh, I listened to it.
Oh, you did? Okay, great.
I did. I watched it, listened to it. Amazing.
Great.
Thanks so
Terrific.
much for providing those video episodes. It's really a good change to see you guys' faces.
Yeah, maybe we'll do more of it as time goes by, but for now, just probably like on special occasions, maybe just the first episode and last episode of a season, but we'll see if we do more of it. If it's popular, we'll probably do more of it. Like I just said, we spoke for 2 hours about this. I'm not sure I have that much more to add. So, but I very interested in hearing your feedback. I have some questions for you specifically in your reaction to it that you had mentioned to me that this was the show this year and maybe longer, maybe in the last half year or so, that has resonated with you the most. And I was very curious about that. So tell me your experience of watching it, probably watching it with your wife, I would assume. I watched it with my wife as well, something that I don't always get to do. So that was a pleasure in and of itself.
Well, first of all, I don't have too much to add to your epic conversation, especially deep diving into all the themes. But as a casual viewer, whereas I didn't have to analyze the themes and track the characters all throughout the series, I loved this season. I think it's the best season of The White Lotus so far. It was also fantastic to be able to watch it with my wife. We weren't watching separately or at different speeds or catching up on old seasons. We're pretty much together on this TV show, which is it's really good for our marriage, I think.
Yes.
And also, I think the fact that I've been to Thailand, my wife's been to Thailand on numerous occasions, meant we had a real affinity with the venue. It's not too far away from Australia, so and it also features a few Australians in the show, one on the staff. Even though the White Lotus in the first season, Armand, the manager from the first season, was Aussie and very memorable person. And while I bring him up, I think there should be a White Lotus prequel season coming up.
Yeah, unfortunately,
hopefully.
can't do a sequel, right?
With him in it, spoiler alert.
Right.
Because I just think he was just so fantastic, and really want to see him again. You guys were very earlier on in your recaps. You didn't like Patrick Schwarzenegger's character.
Yeah.
And I'd seen this guy before in the Staircase TV show, and he was really good and very likable in it. And I just thought that he would bring something. And I thought you guys were off base earlier on, where you didn't like the character, didn't think he could change. I was like, nah, this guy's cool. He's going to bring it. And he did come almost full circle around, but he was very interesting throughout. He wasn't just the one note character.
As you heard in that conversation, it was a full reversal for Sona. By the end of the show, that was like nearly her favorite character, which I never came fully around on that, but I did appreciate that there was a lot of intentionality in making him so utterly one-dimensional and boring, to be honest, early on, but intentionally so. And he gave a really strong performance. And I did want to shout that out, that I found him so bland at the start, because I saw him, and maybe you've seen this, Darren. Have you ever seen a low-budget horror movie called Daniel is Real?
No, I haven't.
Elijah Woods produced a lot of these low-budget horror movies, some pretty interesting ones. One of the ones he made, maybe 5 or 6 years ago at this point, was a movie called Daniel is Real. And it's about this guy who's like a college student, and he starts to believe that there's this demon who's played by Schwarzenegger, and that he is basically like the devil on his shoulder. And then the question is he real, or is this all in the kid's head? The more ambiguous that movie is, the first half of that movie is excellent. And then it doesn't quite work at the end. But I thought Schwarzenegger is so charismatic in that. So I kind of had high expectations that he'd be able to pull off this role. Anyway, so I brought that to I think I brought that with me to this. That's why I was a little bit off on it. But I absolutely agree that it was all intentional. And he did a great job by the end, for sure.
And just the fact, I mean, I didn't have to analyze the show, so I could just let everything wash over me. And I was just blown away by people thinking the first four or five or so episodes,
Yeah.
nothing happened. I thought that was brilliant. Nothing happened, but so much was happening. The
Right.
writing of
Right.
the show was so enjoyable. I just loved all these disparate characters, where the only thing they have in common is that they stay at this fancy hotel. Um, it's just stunning, and I agree with you. The three women, um, I probably was not too involved with them at the start, but just
Right.
further on, and that their climax really at the end with the Carrie Coon character, who I think
Yeah.
maybe is the MVP of this
Right.
series.
I agree.
Um, and just the way that she comes to her realization, I really resonated with that,
Yeah.
um, and that almost brought me to tears. And I think
Same.
that was maybe the real, even though the gut punch at the end with Rick and Chelsea, I mean, it was also very very
Yeah.
emotional, and even the poor old kid almost dying as well. Or
Yeah.
we thought he was gone. We thought he was dead. Um, just incredible, and really, really, uh, it, it it earns that feeling because of all the groundwork that Mike White has
Yeah.
laid with the writing earlier on in the seasons. And yeah, we were just blown away. I mean, my wife talked to someone at work. She's like, "Oh, did you see the final episode?" 'Cause she knew this person was watching it. She's, "Oh yeah, it's a bit boring." She's just
Yeah.
like, "I'm not your friend anymore. I can't be friends if you think this is boring." So, but anyway, um, what else did I enjoy? Sam Rockwell
Oh
dancing
yeah.
again. He
Great.
dances in 99% of the film and TV that he's in. He's just so good. I love seeing Scott Glenn, even though he is a very old man
Yeah.
now.
I know.
I just keep thinking back to him in Silence of the Lambs.
Same.
Just brilliant, and also The Right Stuff, which is
Yeah.
one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same. Yeah.
so good to see him again. Um, what I was really surprised about was Guy Talk.
hmm
I was just so upset with him throughout the whole season. I just thought he's just choosing the weak way. He's not stepping up. He's not doing his job. And then finally he does his job and he gets the girl
He
and he
does.
gets the job. Um, and just even though it's heartbreaking that he goes against his values, I still think he's got a hard job in front of him. I was looking up Sritala's wristwatch that she wears. It's
Yeah.
worth like $350,000.
Exactly.
So, I mean, hopefully he's got a friend that he can help protect her because, I mean, I don't know how he's going to go.
I should have prefaced all this with spoilers for this episode, of course. But I'm assuming anybody at this point is not going to be. They're on board with the spoilers, I'm sure. But I just want to call that out again because most of what you said is relatively vague so far. So I want to make sure that people are fully aware of that because we'll probably get into more specific details. With Guy Talk, I'm totally there with you. I felt like he needed to make a decision. And at the same time, I didn't want him to betray like it's one of those things where you want to see some action. You want to see someone take action, right? That's what you're waiting to see. And then, of course, this is a very non-Buddhist, mentality, but which, of course, is much more of his leaning. But yeah, there's definitely irony there in the fact that, killing the guy at the end, pulling the trigger, got him the job, got him the promotion, got him the girl, got him
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, good on him. Even though I'm not sure how far he's going to go, he
Yeah,
might
that's
have
true.
to have that career change that he's been talking about maybe later on.
Or maybe he he reveals, like, maybe he starts to buy into his Mook's mentality, that it's like, hey, look, violence is part of life. It's going to happen one way or the other.
Yeah, and in terms of the spirituality, I did really resonate with some of the teachings that the Buddhist leader laid down during the season, especially with imagining your conscious life as a bubble that
Yeah.
jumps up from the ocean, and then when you die, you just fall back into this extended consciousness of the ocean. And I really enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed, I think, was it in the last episode when he said, when we wake up, we might feel anxious, we might feel terrible, and we do things to try to make us not anxious, but that actually makes us more anxious.
Right.
when really the teaching is that you have to learn to live with whatever you're feeling. And I thought that that's something that we can take into everyday life. So yeah, I enjoyed that. What else?
I'm not a full-on Buddhist, but I'm very appreciative of the teachings in general. And I think we collectively need to do more of that, because I look around at and I assume, this is one of the questions I had for you, is culturally here, we're just in a point for me personally, where I just feel so utterly exhausted by the culture. And it is the constant media. It is the constant that our entire economy is attention seeking. So it's just like, whether you're getting telemarketed to, or someone's trying to scam you, or someone is, your kids are watching like infinite TikTok and YouTube shorts and things like that. And it's just like, it just seems like there is 18 things going on at all times, and you can never catch up, and you're always exhausted, and you're always chasing after this next thing. And like the whole idea of just being able to meditate and like turn that all off, which it's utterly exhausting to me. And it just feels that the culture has gotten more and more addicted to it in general. Do you feel the same thing as Australia also? Have you seen this like in your lifetime, that this has become the case? Obviously social media that makes it generically, but what's your feel on that in general with where you live?
I'm a father with three kids, so I just feel like I'm always busy. Work
Yeah.
full time. I'm always busy, always doing things, anxious things to do. Got to keep up with it all. But also, I mean, I'm not super into social media,
Right.
but I
Mm-hmm.
do find myself going down those rabbit holes. But also just news. I love keeping up with the news, and I
Mm-hmm.
just consume all this news in the morning. And then when I think back, it's like they're all just clickbaity things. There's
Yes.
nothing really
Right.
that I get from it. It's just like you're just up on the next level of the circus that's going on, which is valuable or not. It is good to place value in these TV shows, even though you feel like you're
Right.
wasting your life sitting in front of a box or a screen on the wall. But it does let you have conversations with your partner, have conversations
Right.
with your workmates. I just wish some of my workmates were more up to date with with the shows that I'm watching.
And
Um,
honestly, the reason I started the podcast and the reason I listen to podcasts is because podcast is like my one. I also like to be informed and know what's happening, but I would much rather listen to Planet Money rather than and get in like a deep dive onto a particular topic where they might
mm,
be breaking down one part of the US economy, or like what the impact might be on tariffs in just like one segment of the economy, and break it down over multiple days, because I'd rather deeply dive and understand something than to just look at headlines. Because like you mentioned the clickbaity thing, which really resonated with me, because that's the thing that gets exhausting in culture, where I feel like everything is clickbait. It's like to get your attention at work, even it feels like your interactions have become clickbaity. You know what I mean? It's just like, does everything have to be clickbait all the time? And because, like you said, the thing that gets your attention when you're looking at the news headline inevitably ends up being, empty calories. And then you click through and you click through and you click through and you're like, what did I just waste 20 minutes on? Anyway, all that is to say is I like podcasts because it forces you to engage with something over an extended period of time. And I think about how when I want to engage with Severance, for example, I'll listen to a Severance podcast, not just our own one, but others as well, and have people, especially some of the best ones, where they are deeply, talking about the technique of the filmmaking and everything else. And then I think most people are just looking at, the reels or whatever that are coming through, and that's how they engage with the information. These like seconds, these seconds long interactions. The same thing's happening with the White Lotus, of course. And then I know people who are purely like they want to know what happened on the White Lotus, and they have never watched the White Lotus. They're just watching the TikTok or the Instagram reels and stuff about it. And I'm like, that is just so sad. So all that is to say, when you think your brain is rotting in watching this TV show for an hour time, I'm like, you know what? If you're engaging with the material for an hour straight with your spouse or with your coworkers or with someone on a podcast, even, it's like that is, for me, more satisfying than all of this constant pulling the lever on a slot machine. Just it just gets exhausting over time.
That is a good point. Yeah, and it is good to engage with it like I do on a casual level, and then I can listen to your guys' conversation about it, and it really identifies the themes and pulls apart the themes that are in there, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize this was actually so deep. I just thought that was just he just let the snakes go because he was tripping. But yeah.
That I mean, that is what was happening, of course, and not only that, I want to be, maybe that isn't a tone that comes on the show at all, or I mean, I guess it comes across as well. I mean, we all know that Mike White is writing these episodes and trying to create he's very aware of what the cultural conversation will be as he's writing these episodes. So he knows that. And that's something that makes him a good
Mm.
TV writer, that he understands what the audience reaction to something's going to be. So that's an aspect of it. But there are these bigger themes, obviously, in the show. Like you go back to season 2 and you think about sexual politics and you think about that power dynamic that they're exploring there within a relationship, with sex as a commodity basically across the board in that entire season of the show. Or, of course, in season 1, the whole idea of the power dynamics and how there's always these power dynamics, and even like the liberal family is maybe the shittiest characters on the whole season of the show, and that's just performative liberalism. But then when you are actually in this dynamic, of course you accept your privilege and you use it when you can. So there is this there are things that are being explored there as well. So that's what I like about the show. It's not going to be like a diatribe about these topics, but it allows you to think about those things in the context of this obviously lavishly produced, beautiful people all over the place, funny dialogue, crazy situations. Speaking of crazy situations, we didn't talk about this the whole entire time the show was on the air. This is another thing that obviously, if you listen to our recaps, we had issues with. What is the point of having the incest storyline in the show?
I don't know. Is it like look,
There you go.
I think it's fun to go places that you would never even think about. And I think some shows need to go to those places to get headlines. I don't know if the White
Right.
Lotus does, but I just took it for what it was, and that was just something that's a bit interesting and also very disturbing when you try to think about it in your own life. But they kind of dropped it pretty quickly. Or they bring these things up, and then it's all part of a richer tapestry. So it's not
Yeah.
just like, oh, that's the incest show, or that's there's plenty of other things to think about. I think, and I think that's the talent of the writing and the fact that you can just enjoy the characters on a surface level, but then you can also go deeper. It's fascinating. It just is so rich to watch.
It's such good writing. I mean, that's the one thing I want to be clear about. I'm a huge fan of him, even his films. He has a very cynical point of view. If you see any of his films that he's directed, and I do recommend them, by the way, none of them I give enthusiastic thumbs up to because they are all really depressive by the end, although they're very funny in execution. And his films in general are not that mainstream in the past, except for, I mean, he wrote that Jack Black movie. What was that?
School of Rock.
School
Yeah.
of Rock, exactly. Except for his Hollywood stuff. He wrote the Emoji Movie, which is terrible, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He wrote the what's that Disney movie he wrote with the gorilla and Bryan Cranston's in it. Anyway, he makes, other
Hmm.
than his big Hollywood movies, his own indie movies, the ones that he's directed himself, are usually pretty rough stuff, but they deal with all these same themes about the discrepancy between the power dynamic shifts between the rich and the poor, etc. A lot of things that are in the White Lotus. One thing, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is really, I'd recommend this so highly. I think it's the first show he ever produced, and it was, he wrote, same thing, wrote and directed the entire thing. It was with Laura Dern, called Enlightened. Have you ever seen this? It's on HBO. You can still watch it on.
Yeah, I did. I watched a few episodes of that, and then my wife just went off with it, and I lost it. She went and finished it, but it was very interesting, and you could see
Yeah.
the seeds of where the White Lotus came from that, and he actually acted in that as well, which was
Yes, he
fun.
was. He was like her friend. Yeah, exactly. At the office. I really highly recommend that. That was a series that, like the first season of The White Lotus, for me, as I was watching it, my wife was really into it, and I couldn't engage with it. There was something with it that was rubbing me the wrong way. And I'd say about three-quarters of the way through season one, it was like I had an epiphany. I was like, all of a sudden, there was this really powerful episode. I'm like, oh my God, all this discomfort, all this dislike for this character, it was all intentional. And I was like blown away. And from then I was like a big fan of his. I'd be like, wow, like, and that's why I give him a lot of, even when I'm watching and people complained about this season of The White Lotus, a lot of people complained about it, although ratings were blockbuster. So I guess he knows what he's doing. Even maybe people are, even if they hate watching it, they're still watching it, which is important. Even when I feel like maybe this season's not working for me or whatever, I always give him that credit that I think he's going to pull it off in the end. A few things I wanted to mention to you. Now that the season's ended, he's been doing a lot of press just the past couple of days, and I've been reading his interviews. And a couple of questions I had for you. One thing I did not realize at all. He writes these really long scripts. So a 1 hour episode starts off as like a 1.5 hour, 1 hour and 45 minute episode, like twice as much content on the page. Then when he starts shooting the episode, he starts taking stuff out. But then when he edits, he cuts it down even more. So here's what my question to you is. A lot of people complained that a lot of stuff was unresolved. Like there was a lot of teasing that something was going to happen and then it didn't actually happen. According to Mike White, in the shot season of the show, there are more explicit things that happen that kind of are more definitive. But as he's editing them, he takes them out because he literally said this, he wants to edge the audience. He said, if you're going to get into bed with me, I'm going to edge you. And if you don't like that, then get out of bed. So that's basically his metaphor. It's very disturbing when I think about the brothers together in bed together. But that's basically what he was saying. So the frustration that people think they might feel, it's very intentional. And an example of this, and here's my question to you, whether you'd wanted to see this or not. In the finale was another 15 minutes longer. And one of the things he cut out was that Piper loses her virginity to Zion.
Okay.
Is that something you would want to see? And by the way, not specifically that thing, but when you think about that, that's how he's writing the episode and then intentionally cutting things out afterwards. What do you think about that? Is that something you'd wanted to see to maybe add some more context to that character? Or go ahead.
I mean, what a luxury that he can do that. Mm-hmm. So he's writing scripts double the size, and then also not only that and cutting them down, but filming scenes, and then cutting them as he's filming, and then tightening it up in the edit. I mean, that is crazy, and that does make sense with the edging and with the the picking up threads and then dropping them, and because it does feel like there's a lot of things happening below the surface and stuff that you don't see, which I'm fine with. To make the finale longer and to have another sex scene, why not? Bring it on. I'd see that. Those two are pretty attractive people. And geez, Zion, he works pretty fast, doesn't he? He's only there for a couple of days.
That's where I butted against it. I think that, well, what he said, I think, is totally true. First of all, the episode was long. And second of all, he mentions like where it is in the script that you go from this, the suspenseful, is Zion and Belinda in danger with the Greg negotiation, and the Ratcliffes are being poisoned by the dad, potentially someone's going to die. So the simple fact is like shoehorning a sex scene, which he said was very much like a rom-com, like kind of a meet cute and a fumbling sex, and then this, the discovery that it might be her first time, which is probably would be news to Zion in that circumstance. So anyway, all of that was like kind of a rom-com tone that didn't fit in with the episode. So that all makes sense.
I was going to say, it doesn't feel like a finale type thing.
Especially because that was pretty grim. Sona mentioned that was a dark episode, right? I agree.
It was. Yeah.
And then also the other part of it was the when me thinking about that was just that it seems like what is the, specifically what's the purpose of putting that in there? Like you said, Zion just showed up, and all of a sudden he's just like, hey, why not? Like getting which I mean happens when you're on vacation, but she doesn't seem to be like the person for that unless she just wants to, just like her meditation, she wants to get it all done while she's in Thailand.
Yeah. And another reason why she probably doesn't want to go to a Buddhist camp for a year when you can miss out on opportunities like Zion.
Maybe she's afraid of hooking up with her brother while she's there.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Keep it in the
Yeah, I
family.
do agree. I do agree. A couple of the characters were underwritten, and a big disappointment was the manager, the
Oh my
German
God.
manager,
So
who
much so.
didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, and the fact I think you guys brought it up. He had his big moment where he's singing, and they just cut
They
away
cut
from him
away. They don't
straight
even
away.
care. The show doesn't even care. It's like really weird.
And maybe that was the funny part of it. That yeah, there was a like an Australian New Zealand actress who she takes care of their phones, the rat kids'
Yes. Yeah.
phones. Maybe she could have been the manager because she was. I thought she was stunning every time she was on screen. She was very interesting, and you could see that she was, yeah, pandering to these people's needs. But she also, you could see that she had a lot under the surface there. So maybe she could have been a more interesting manager who could treat these people with the disdain they deserve.
I'm going to keep throwing things into the mix here. Recommendations. Have you ever seen Housebound, that Australian movie?
You did mention it to me. It's on my list. I have not
Okay.
seen it. No.
It's the director of that. It made it. Now he directs the Megan movies. So he made a big upgrade for his career.
Oh wow. Oh, good on him. I did see the trailer for the latest Megan movie. It looks like it's
Yes.
turned up to 10.
Terminator 2, like that. People are saying it's like Terminator 2 in that she's the good guy now, right? So they have a worse robot that she has to go up against.
Right, okay. I quite enjoyed that first one. The second one doesn't. It looks like it's yeah, it hasn't continued that kind of cool little theme, low budget theme that they had going.
The first one's fun. I enjoyed it. It's certain characters, her specifically, and maybe this is where things end up on the cutting room floor. But maybe she had a little bit more to do in the original edit. That's why you hire these skilled actors. But I feel like the head of staff, whatever his title would be, which has been such an entertaining character in the previous seasons,
Mm.
was really just disappointing. Like so underused, I think, in general. And yeah, like that moment that really made me laugh, where at that moment I'm like, this show doesn't care about this character. Where basically the only thing he's been talking about is this performance, and then as soon as he starts performing, they cut to the girls talking at the table. I'm just like, okay, they don't care about this guy.
And you know what? They're probably much more interesting than watching his performance.
Oh, I'm sure that but that is unfortunately that just they didn't know what to do with that character, basically. So
And it makes sense if you're saying that he's writing for 2 hours and cutting to 55
yeah,
minutes. That does make sense that things would just fall away.
yeah. I mean, but by the way, having these longer scripts, especially because he has the luxury that he is the writer and director, so he knows that he can throw things out later on. I'm sure, like when he's making these blockbuster movies, they're much tighter scripts. He has that luxury of being his own editor and his own director and his own, he's his own writing staff. Basically, he doesn't have a writer's room. He just writes these scripts himself. That by necessity at the beginning, but apparently he's continued to do this. So he might be a control freak for all I know. But it is interesting that he has that flexibility, but it's not uncommon. Like you probably know about this, but like Tarantino writes a whole novel about like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has been published. He actually published that novel, but for all of his movies, he's written straight up novels or just very extensive backstories on all the characters. So the actors have that backstory to bring to their performances, even if that exact content is not in front of the screen. And I feel like that's probably what Mike White is doing, where the actors, when they read the content, they're getting all this additional backstory on their characters. All those scenes may not end up in the final product, right? But they get that context for their performances. And I think that's probably most of what he's doing there. Plus, of course, he has all that luxury. He can just be like, hey, I'm going to cut these 10 pages today. I can do whatever I want. I run the whole show. So.
I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But my God, what the amount of work that it
Yeah.
must involve. I mean, not just writing it, being the sole writer, but actually being on set and running a set and directing it all. I mean, just incredible. I mean, what a talent.
It's a lot of work. Yeah,
Let's
he's it's extremely
let's
difficult.
hope that he can bring it for more seasons because I mean, it is such an amazing show, and I'd love to see where they're going to shoot it next
Same.
and what actors they're going to use, and hopefully they keep it nice and tight so he can, yeah, keep the quality there.
So yeah, speaking of that, so as I've outlined multiple times in the course of the podcast, for me, season two just was more resonated more with me. I was really invested in all the different stories. I felt all the characters, like we were talking about how some of the characters don't really pop in this season. I felt like all the characters in season two were great, even the smaller ones. Anyway, I just really liked it a lot more. For me, it just worked better. But the maybe part of the reason that worked better for me, and this is a different show what it was structured there. It obviously was all the stories culminating almost right at the end of the final episode, which was different from the previous seasons. So that whole thing was a different, so there was a different pattern to what he was trying to write. But my question was, do you think the 8 episodes was too many episodes?
I don't. I loved it, them all. I just, like I say, I just really enjoyed getting to know these people, getting to know the women, not really being into the family and getting to know them, getting super involved in who he's going to absolutely murder or kill or himself.
Right.
To the little love story with Gaitok and Lisa. Um, yeah, I don't think 8 was too many. I thought it was spot on. Yeah, yeah, really enjoyed delving into everything about it. Um, Poor old Rick. We haven't talked much about Rick, but
Oh
geez,
man, yeah.
he was just incredible. Just love seeing Walton Goggins
Yeah.
on screen. Without the other couple of things I've seen him in recently is he's in makeup or he's missing a nose in Fallout, and he's
Fallout.
Baby Billy in Righteous Gemstones. It's
Yeah,
a bit
exactly.
different, so it's good to see him um, as someone that seems similar to his own character, which I thought brought a lot of depth to it. And a great love story with Chelsea.
It really is. And I mean, they were together to the end. I mean, unfortunately, not maybe shorter than everybody expected, but
Yeah, I've got a workmate who has a very similar accent to Chelsea, so I go and chat to her all the time now to see.
I
And now
nailed
that
that
she's gone.
reveal at the very beginning of the show, by the way, that
Oh,
he
you certainly
is your
did.
father.
Yeah, they tried to hide it a bit. I thought you might have been off base, but they brought it back right at the end, of
Yeah.
course.
I think by the end of the show, a lot of people on social media were saying we're pretty on spot on with this whole thing. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and the fact that he didn't have any time to deal with it, it was just like
yeah, of
he
course.
found out just after he shot him. I mean, stunning. Yeah.
Even that is
Poor
unsatisfying. I mean, and I say this intentionally, that even that is unsatisfying in the way that it really like this. I think there's something thematic in the final episode that vengeance really is futile, right? That in that very way that he has been seeking this reconciliation and he gets this revenge, but he'll never have that reconciliation, not only because he's dead, but because he basically destroyed the very thing he wanted. So it's like it really is making it a point that this cycle of vengeance was, really the most damaging thing he possibly could have done. Unfortunately, though, like that way that whole thing played out, because I was really rooting for him to, become enlightened, and maybe he is in that final moment. By the way, that's that he has that expression on his face that he has found peace. I mean, the peace of death, I
oh,
guess.
stunning. What a stunning shot as well.
Yeah.
He's
Mhm.
looking up and Chelsea's face down. I mean, just devastating.
Yeah, really. Yeah, incredible. And goes back to, you think about Mike White running this whole entire show, nuts to bolts, soup to nuts, I should say. But the whole, think about that. It's like, it's the shot selection of, and so to just think about that final. I think about this when I'm watching something that's really well made. That for him to fall into the water and then flip over so his face will be perfectly framed, which of course that expression we saw in the previous episode. So there's all this mirroring that he's written into the script. and visualize there and making those
Mm.
shot selections, even the way the bodies are going to fall. Like this is really incredible technique that he has here and control.
I got to agree. Yeah, it's stunning, and the fact that he does it all himself and has the confidence to portray it. I mean, it's just a master storyteller.
I gotta say, people had issues with the White Lotus. People had issues with this season of Severance as well. Although I think most fans were very satisfied with both. And I gotta say that I maybe this is going to be rough for the rest of the year when you're seeing two shows like this that are running almost in parallel, where everything is so detailed and so thought out because there's a lot of messiness. Like, you really liked, I mean, we both enjoyed the first, I would say I loved the first 3 episodes or so of Day of the Jackal, loved it, right? And
Mm,
then as that went on, I thought that they were getting sloppier and sloppier with the way they were
mm.
plotting things out, which, by the way, happens with TV. That's to be expected. But like I said, you watch something like Severance, where there are so many layers to just the visuals, the color selection, and then, of course, something like this show, the White Lotus, as well. And I'm like, man, is the rest of the year going to be like a real disappointment? Because is anybody else going to be on their game like this for the rest of for the rest of the year? I don't know. We might have seen the best made. I mean, I'm not saying they'd be the most entertaining shows of the year, but we might have seen the most well-made shows of the year. They might have already passed us by.
Well, look, Victor, we are struggling to find a show to follow through from the beginning to end recently. So
That's true.
let's hope something can turn the corner and can grab us. I'm not quite sure that Mobland's going to do it.
Mobland, yeah,
um,
Mobland.
Dope Thief is definitely not doing it. I'm out.
Oh, you're out. Did you try it this week? I actually thought this week was probably the best episode of the show.
Oh, okay. I tried and I just realized I didn't care.
Yes, I have to say that I watched it. It hooked me in. A couple of things that I liked about the show, but every episode has been like that with me. Where even with this current episode, which I think was the best one they've had so far, and now I think I'm pot committed. I'm 5 in. I got to watch it to the end. But even then, by the time we got to the end of the episode, I started to be like, I don't know if I really care, like you said, even though there were parts in the episode that pulled me through. And man, I got to feel like that the whole show has been like that. Yeah, I can't recommend that one. Even if I end up liking it in the end, I'll be like, I don't know if I would recommend it to anybody because I'm like, well, yeah, if you got some time to kill, but otherwise, I don't know. Not, yeah, definitely not. The best in class. Oh, a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. Did you check out any of the Bondsmen at all?
Oh yeah, the Bondsman. Yeah, I watched the pilot. Yeah, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm not quite sure where it's gonna go. But the pilot was hilarious. It was good to see Kevin Bacon do his thing. Um, yeah.
I would say if you like the pilot, and this is just for anybody generally out there, if you like the pilot, then watch it all the way through for 2 reasons. I mean, if you like Supernatural, for example, if you're a big fan of Supernatural, the show Supernatural, then that's basically what you're getting. It's kind of Southern uh, set, supernatural thriller. He's a supernatural bounty hunter. It's like you've seen this show before, even in this basic setup in this locale. It's all going to feel very familiar. But one, Kevin Bacon's fantastic in it. He's like really, you see why he's a star. Like he really makes the show work. Without Kevin Bacon in the show, don't watch it.
Mm.
Second reason to watch it, the pilot episode is about 35 minutes long. All the other episodes are like 20 minutes long. It's like the length of the rest of the show, the whole next 7 episodes is basically one movie. So if you got 2.5, 3 hours, you're good. You got the whole entire show. So yeah. So if you like Kevin Bacon, if you like those type of supernatural thrillers, if you're not a big fan of any one of those things, there's nothing there that's new. Nothing. It's completely generic. So don't. You're not missing out. But like I said, if you like Supernatural, if you've already seen all 275 episodes of that show and you want some more, yeah, this is only like a 3-hour commitment. So go for it.
And his mum's really good. The actress that plays
Yes,
his mum,
she's
she's
great.
great.
I'm really seriously starting to doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion.
Oh yeah. Was that Donnie
Donnie
Darko?
Darko, yeah, Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
Did you watch Dying for Sex?
We've watched 3 episodes and it's getting a pass mark. I can't say that I'm fully on board. It's yeah, it's not super fun,
No,
which I thought a
it's
show
funny
about
though. It's
sex
funny though.
would be fun.
I thought, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. The sex is not fun, but I do find it funny. The show is funny.
Her friend is excellent. Her best
Yeah.
friend, and she's already gone through a journey in the first 3 episodes. We've got a friend like that, and she really resonates. I think she's really fantastic. Michelle Williams' character is it's. My wife remarked she's not very likable,
No. Yes.
which yeah, which is quite interesting to have someone like that. The internal monologue kind of puts me off a little bit.
Mhm.
But I think the third episode was the better of all of them. But yeah, I don't know. It's just not. I'm not feeling that it's very realistic, even though it is supposedly based on a true story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not super keen on going back to it just because it's an uneasy watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not super enjoyable, which it shouldn't. It's obviously not meant to be. Person dying of cancer is pretty rough stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I liked it better than you. I've gotten 4 episodes in. It's gotten better as it's gone
Mm.
along. And the last few episodes I hear are really excellent. So, I mean, unfortunately, I think they also deal with some dark material, of course. So, but yeah, I've heard it's very good. I laughed a lot in this show, even though, yeah, it's very intentionally trying to make you uncomfortable. And yeah, Jenny Slate is fantastic, and I like their. I think I like the chemistry between them. I like the narration, by the way, and I know that's like an acquired taste. I like the narration, which very much I assume is from her own diaries, from the actual person's diaries. So I liked, in general, I think I liked it more than you did, and I will go back to it. I didn't have time to finish it, but I will probably finish it off. I think I only have, and once again, these are, I think it's 8 episodes. They're about half an hour long, so this is like a 4 hour commitment. So I think I'm about 2 hours committed in. I will probably finish it off, especially because if you look at the episode ratings, I think like the first episode has like a 7.5, and the last episode has like a 9. So I'm like, okay, it gets better as it goes along. So I'll probably finish it off.
Yeah,
I
we'll
mean,
probably keep
I
going
definitely
with
will.
it.
I definitely will finish it off. I say, I just don't know if I'm going to. I honestly, it's not that long. So I think once I commit to it, I'll probably just binge the end. But I just don't know when that's going to happen right now. So.
One thing that me and my wife have been watching, which we've been really enjoying, is this Seth Rogen comedy,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Platonic.
Oh, I
Platonic, I
love
think
it.
it's called.
Love Platonic. Love it. Yeah.
It's so good. It is so funny. Talk about laugh out loud
Yes.
funny. I'm
Mm-hmm.
cracking up
Yeah.
throughout this whole episode, and every episode, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really just Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne just
Yep.
playing off each other. I didn't
Terrific.
know
Mm-hmm.
Rose Byrne was so funny. Um, she's just genius in these episodes, even though her half Australian, half American accent sometimes puts me off. It's
Yeah.
very odd the way she says some words and then other words in the same sentence. But it's laugh out loud funny. I'm really enjoying that. I think it's just cracking me up. My wife's like, this morning, she's like, "What? I remember having nights out like that. Why don't we have nights out like that anymore?"
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, there's a goal.
Yeah, so Sona and I both really liked that last year. We talked about it on the pod. We never covered it week to week, but we discussed it a few times. And I don't know if you finished it yet. I feel like
Not yet.
it starts to, and you'll get to it. It's always funny throughout, but as it goes along, they try to learn their life lessons. They try to give like a structure to the show, which honestly, that's all detrimental to me. I don't think it needed any of that, but that's a minor ding on the. I mean, the first. I think when we were watching it on the podcast, I think the first 5 episodes. I think I recommended it every single week because I was
Yeah.
just like, this show every damn week. This show is cracking me up, and I'm not someone who, if I'm watching something by myself, I laugh out loud. I laughed out loud. Those first 5 episodes are, I'll go back and watch them again. They're just so hilarious.
Yeah.
And and then like I said, it gets more into like the plot, and they get into a fight, and the whole, they have to give it like a whole character arc and everything, which I'm like, I don't know, just let them hang
You
out.
don't need to. Yeah.
Just let them hang out
Yeah.
with each other. They're funny. That's it. Just hang out with each other. Make it a sitcom. Just make it a sitcom. But yeah, just one of my favorite comedies of last year, especially early in the going. Man, those first 4 or 5 episodes, and exactly that. I remember watching that with my wife, and we're like, man, remember just being idiots and going out and being out way too late and just forgetting half of that happened the night before when you got home. Man, what happened to us? That doesn't happen anymore.
And all these plans for the night, and they're talking about going to the strip club constantly, constantly.
Nothing.
They never
You never go. You never have. You just go home afterwards. That's the funniest. That's the most true part of that, is all of the talking about all the things you're going to do. And you meet up at that first place where, and then someone's like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. And then they order food. And then like you spend the whole time at the one bar, and then you go home afterwards. You're like, weren't we going to go out tonight? What happened? We just sat there and had appetizers. But yeah, that just happens when you get older.
And they're still great nights. That is a great night.
Yeah,
Have all these
still
plans
fun.
and just stay at the first one because it's so much fun. You don't
Sometimes
need
you're
to
just
move.
having a good time, and you're like, let's not go anywhere. Let's just hang out here. Yeah, that's all part of it. But yeah, I love that. And Sona was a big fan of the fact that, and I agree with this, she is always looking for shows or any kind of content, which was it was funny. Like she had said this on the show multiple times. We watched some show, I can't even remember what it was at some point, and she was disappointed that there was like a platonic friendship on the show, and then it became romantic. And she was like, I'm so disappointed they didn't just leave it platonic. And then I'm like, Sona, there's a show coming on called Platonic. And yeah, she loved it for that as well. So
they better not do that. They can't do
oh
that.
no,
There's no romantic
I don't
feeling
think that's
between
going to
these two
happen.
characters at all.
Yeah, and that's the best part about it. There is at no time do you think like these guys are going to end up hooking up with each other, but it's which is the charm of it, right? That they really are truly just friends, and it's fun. Yeah,
And it's so good. I mean, the husband is a bit jealous of their
of
friendship,
course.
but it's
Yeah,
like Seth Rogen's taking care of this guy's wife in other ways that you can't take care of it. You should just be on board with that. That is a great friendship
yeah,
that's going to let you off easier and give you an easier ride and a better ride. And you can have different relationships with your own wife than this other guy is. It's really cool and really lifelike, I think.
yeah, exactly. I think it's the best part about it is that, and as a matter of fact, I remember seeing that right around the same time I started watching Colin from Accounts, and there's the whole
Ah, yeah.
microbrewer connection and all that.
Yeah.
So there's all these connections in there, and honestly, that's another show that I love the chemistry between those two, which I think they're an actual couple. You told me, right? Is that correct?
They are, yeah, and I think they write the show together as well.
And but that's a show where I almost wish that, and maybe biased by watching Platonic at the same time, I almost wish that they had like tried to be romantic and it didn't work out, but they stayed, platonic friends. I think that would have been a fun dynamic. And I like that, for example, on the show Platonic, I like the fact that the husband's a little jealous of her with the Seth Rogen character, just because, even if he doesn't see him as a sexual threat, he's like, well, they have a different chemistry than I do, so you kind of feel like you're missing out on that. But then, of course, just like even when you were in high school and you had those type of relationships, of course, when he starts dating that other girl, she's judgmental because she thinks like, well, she's not the type of girl he should be dating. And there's all this like, it's funny because it's like, it's not that there's a sexual chemistry, but there's like this like a tangential sexual, not jealousy, but like almost like a judgmental, judginess as to like you're not dating the right person. And it's just like, well, like what's it? What is it to you? It's none of your business. But that does kind of intercede on those relationships, which all of it I think is just very true to life, like a real blast. And that's one of my. I mean, I think I sent you some recommendations when you said that you had just recently started watching Apple TV. Apple TV puts out a lot of content, and it's not all great. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty disappointed with a lot of it that comes along. But that was one of those things that I think not a lot of people watched, and it's so good. It's such a great show.
It's so good. Every time I finish a show on Apple, it wants me to watch this thing called Surface.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
what it
We've
is.
yes. Me and my wife, we have watched, I think, an episode and a half of Surface purely because like after Severance, we'll be talking and it'll be playing and we'll just be looking at the screen every once in a while and she'll be like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, it's that show Surface. And then like I think we're like into episode 2. And by the way, I have no idea what's happened. It's just running in the background while we're talking about the show we did just watch. So I don't know. That's how they bump up their own ratings, I guess.
Yeah, it just auto plays. You know, what
Yeah,
is
just
this
auto
thing?
plays.
Well,
Exactly.
how did this come on? Yeah. Did not choose this at all.
Right. Like same thing. I just finished. I just caught up on Dope Thief, and then it tried to play it afterwards. I'm like, what is going on, man? I don't want to watch this show.
One last thing that you recommended to me that I should catch up on was The Pit.
Oh
So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch up on it. I just went straight to episode 12, which is where something happens
Yes.
in the outside world and they get a whole lot of patients. And that episode was just an incredible bit of television. So good. I didn't need to see the first 11 episodes. Well, I felt like I didn't need to see the first
Yeah.
11 episodes. I didn't understand all the little intricacies about the characters, but I thought it was just so interesting
Mm-hmm.
to see the technical management of a hospital in essentially some almost a war zone type
Right.
situation where there's just constant patients coming in and then you have to assess them within 10 seconds and then everybody knows how to do their job. I love seeing shows where everyone does their job really well. It just
Yeah.
works for me. I enjoy that, get off on that. And that episode of TV was stunning. So yeah, thanks for that recommendation.
Oh, great. Yeah. And I think you will like now that you kind of know where it's headed. I think you should watch the earlier episodes. There are episodes that it's very procedural. It's like very much just like you're developing their interconnections. You see what their relationships with each other are. You see what their backstory issues are in their own personal lives. But it's all background. But, they're dealing with these cases. And I don't want to spoil any of them, but there'll just be an episode where something happens given who the patient happens to be. And man, it will kill you. It's like a knife in the heart. And you're like, oh my God, like it just completely blindsides you because they're just in the middle of their day. And then you have this incredibly like an emotional wallop. And then they just have to keep going on to the next patient. It is really, really good. Yeah. So I would, yeah, it's like I mentioned to you earlier. This is like my favorite watch of every week. I can't wait for this. And it's funny because this is something that it's such a great week to week thing because it's so intense, but it's not like something I not want to unpack and have a 2-hour conversation about. Just kind of want to watch it, experience it, and then I feel very satisfied in watching it. I don't want to see 5 hours of it in a row; it would be utterly exhausting. So I like happy to have it, but then it's just like I literally in the back of my mind I'll be like, "Ooh, tomorrow, Pitt's coming out! I can't wait for the next episode." So and that's happening. That's happening Thursday. So the season finale on Thursday. So I'm very and they've already announced that there's going to be a season 2, of course, as you would expect, considering how popular the show's become. But yeah, I would recommend you go back and even if you want to skip to like episode 3, or it definitely picks up steam as it goes along. So you might want to go to like episode 3, but you might as well just suck it up and start from it.
Yeah, I probably should. Yeah, no, it was a fun watch. Really cool.
Yeah. And there's a lot. There's the intensity of it does not, you're
Oh,
right in the thick of
oh,
it where you are. But there are some pretty crazy things, pretty exciting things that happen earlier. Although it'll be like one case where like this person is just falling apart, one organ at a time. And everybody, the whole hospital is just like, we got to save this person. And it's like really intense in that way, but nothing like where you were at, where, it is just like every part of the hospital is completely occupied with this disaster that's occurring. So
just relentless. And the fact that it's so technical and,
sure.
I'm not a medical type person. I don't understand what they're talking about it, but it's still so fascinating.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of the jargon, it's just great.
It's so funny. My wife will not watch it. She used to work in trauma years ago, not that long ago, like 10 years ago now. So she's like says it's all 100% spot on, but she won't watch it because she's just like, it gives me PTSD. But I'll watch it. So sometimes she just walks in and she's like, "What are you watching?" And it's The Pit. So of course she sits down and like at one point when I was catching up with the show, she watched like 3 episodes in a row. So it's like you say you don't want to watch it, but then you watch 3 episodes straight through. So, but yeah, I can imagine if that's your day to day, probably not what you want to deal with at home. So
Oh God, no, that's tough. They're tough jobs in there.
for sure. Did you see the most recent episode of The Studio? Did you watch this week's episode?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is my favorite show of the week
Oh,
now. As
really?
soon as it comes out,
Okay.
I'm watching it. Yeah, it was another good one. Um, so you would have liked it with your love of film noir, I would have
I do
thought.
love film noir. I thought that for me, this, I mean, it was well made. It was fun that they're playing with the genre. For me, this is my least favorite of the four so far. But that's a high bar that they're clearing. They've been, the first three were excellent. This one's just good, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a bit different. I do wonder whether they shot this episode on film.
I literally Googled it, but
Oh yeah, go on.
but I don't think it's shot on film. The reason I don't think it's shot on film, believe it or not, primarily is because they are still shooting these incredibly long takes,
Yes.
and that's very hard to do with film. And with digital, you can to run as many takes as you want. Doesn't You don't have to worry about that as much. And you also have, I mean, there's a lot of technique. They, lighting, setting
Oh,
up.
yeah, it was incredible. There was a bit where it went from outside to
Yeah,
inside,
yeah.
and I was like, "Well, if they can do that on film, that's pretty impressive."
Right, exactly. Digital is like very forgiving with that, and you can manipulate it after the fact, of course. And with film, it's like you have to light up the inside of the building like it's the outside of the building. It's an
Yeah,
absolute nightmare. So yeah, I don't think that, and like the costs would be astronomical time wise as well. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they shoot digitally here, and they're making fun of the fact that they're probably not shooting on film at all. Oh, and the last thing, we forgot to mention it last week. We talked about it a few times here on the show. The finale of Reacher. We totally forgot to talk about that
oh,
one.
Reacher, yes.
This was very funny. I cracked up at this a couple of times in this episode.
Again, it's the show that once you've watched it, you just forget about it. But it's so satisfying.
Yep. I literally forgot to bring it up last week. Like you said multiple times that and I couldn't even remember. Like there were two or three times I laughed out loud and I could barely remember it. The one I do absolutely remember is when he turned around the gun and killed that giant guy. And I liked it. Was an exemplar, exemplifies the type of show that this is, where you see them. It's a satire of the show that it actually is at the same time. So you
Yes,
see him
yes.
mess with the bullet, and then he turns the gun around, and the guy ends up shooting himself after he's like so sure he has Reacher caught. And then we, who paid attention, know that that's going to happen. But then, because it's the show and a commentary on the show, he has to just tell the guy as he's dying, I turned the bullet around, and he's got to like explain the whole process to this idiot as he dies. So I'm like, yeah, that's the show we're watching. But it was a lot of fun. So
It was
that's
so
all,
much fun.
all I can basically
The
say.
the my favorite bit was after he killed him in the ocean. Um, Reacher gets out. He's walking on the road, and it's a beautiful like silhouette shot of a night shot of the road. And he turns around, and this Frankenstein guy he comes out of the bushes. He's like, "Of course, he's not dead."
These giant guys would be like smashed up by those rocks, by the way. These guys are not like these like lean swimmers. These guys are going to be, yeah, but it's all a fantasy anyway. So Reacher's he's like the Terminator basically. So
I did read that Reacher is the number one streaming show out of everything.
yeah, I think for Amazon, I think it's their number one, unless the Lord of the Rings show is more popular. But I definitely recently, yeah, it's massive. It's such a huge
Yeah,
hit for them.
I've got Prime with ads, so
Yeah.
they rinse the ads during this. I haven't really noticed it too much in other shows, but during this Reacher finale, after every big beat, there's a couple of ads. So yeah,
Yeah, they're always cramming them in for sure. And I'm sure, especially, it's funny. I think when I was binging some of the episodes, a whole episode would go by with just like one ad or something.
mm,
But they know they got that massive audience, like when something's like brand new and people are there to stream, and they're just, shoving in all the ads at the same time. One more recommendation I had, I forgot to mention this. I want to at least put it out there because I haven't talked about it at all this year. The box office this year in the US has been absolutely terrible. Even good films have struggled to find an audience. One very rare hit this year was One of Them Days with SZA and Kiki Palmer, which I think this is a US thing and not really released overseas, considering the demographic here for this audience. but it's very much like a show like Friday, a film like Friday, something that I grew up with, and all those sequels of Friday. Now they are apparently making yet another sequel to Friday. Ice Cube is, but this is about these two roommates, and they can't pay their rent, and they get into all these shenanigans, and basically they have to pay their rent by the end of the day. And SZA and Kiki Palmer are so funny together. Kiki Palmer, who's usually like a lot of energy, she plays very straight, and SZA's the kind of flaky roommate. And it's number one on Netflix right now, deservedly so. It was a hit in box office. I mean, at the box office, and now a hit on Netflix, and it deserves it because it is really funny, like just a really funny buddy uh, film. And I would say that if you watch the film, like the first 10 or 15 minutes might feel like pretty, it's funny, but it's very generic humor. Like you kind of, they're hitting all the jokes you expect. And I'd say as the film goes on and as they're going this odyssey across, Los Angeles, that they keep finding these weird characters and the situations get more bizarre. And I'm pretty sure they're going to make a sequel to this film. And it was one of those films, just like Friday, where I was thinking after watching the film, like, I can't wait to see what that character, or that random side character they run into, what that character is going to do in the sequel. So it's a lot of fun. And if you want to laugh, there's not that many good comedies out there. And this was a fun one. And people do seem to be finding it. So
I love laughing. What's it called again?
it's called One of Them Days.
One of them days. Yeah, my daughter's a big fan of Caesar, so that's the only reason I know who that is. So yeah, I might ask her if she wants to check it out.
She's check it out. It is there's a lot of sex jokes in there. So I mean, depending on your daughter's age, you might want to definitely don't watch it with her. That's for sure. But you probably you may.
Okay, good tip.
It's R rated. So I mean, depending on her age, you can weigh that out. But she is I don't know if Scissors can actually be an actress, but she is really funny. She has a lot of presence, a lot of poise on screen. I laughed a lot. She was really cracked me up. So yeah, definitely recommend that one. And yeah, rare that I laugh. Once again, a lot of times I watch these movies by myself, even when I think something's funny. Rare that I actually will laugh out loud at it, and definitely laughed a lot for this one. All right, so we filled up the hour again. I don't know how this keeps
I know
happening.
it just disappears so fast, doesn't it?
I thought this was going to be like a half-hour conversation. Another hour down. So anyway, all right. Thanks again, Darren.
Cheers, Victor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.